Hi there, it's me Audrina Lane, and as you can see, no cold this week, so that's kind of much better for me to read to you. And here we are on chapter 26, so let's get seated and started. After having a quick chat with Julia at the end, Charlotte grabbed Mitch's hand and they took the short ride home. As they opened the front door, they were hit with the wonderful smell of home-cooked lasagna and realised they were both starving. "Hi guys," Steph said as they both appeared in the kitchen. "How was your day?" "Great, thanks," Mitch said. "Fantastic," said Charlotte, moving to the fridge to reach for a cold drink. "How was your dance practice? Did they like your idea?" "Oh yes, it looks amazing apparently," Charlie replied. "Yes, it is a great routine. We might even beat our group," he said, grinning at Charlie. "Oh, I doubt it. Your other routines are far more technical than ours, so you might end up winning." The trio ate dinner and then Charlie and Mitch went upstairs for an hour before he had to leave. Once in the bedroom, he pulled her to him and they kissed as they lay on her bed. "So, bearing in mind we only have 6 weeks until the dance competition, do you think you might like to come up to mine for a weekend?" he murmured between kisses. "That would be great, as we can always practice the lift at yours," Charlie replied, returning his kisses with enthusiasm. "I'll check with my dad when I get home and then drop you a text and you can ask your mum. Talking of my mum and your dad, I'll try and get a bit further with the diaries, as it's no good us trying to introduce them again if it sounds like the parting was really bad," Charlie said. "I'd hate to cause a scene at the dance competition in London." "Yeah, it's a tricky one, but I'll see if I can find out anything more from my dad." "Deal. But enough talking, I need some more kisses before you have to leave." Mitchell didn't get a chance to reply as she pushed him back and jumped on top of him, brought her lips down to meet his in a kiss so sensual it made her feel light-headed. Then all too soon she was standing on the doorstep, watching him climb on his bike, feeling a strange mix of emotions flowing through her. Part happiness that he was well and truly hers, while also wondering how she was going to get through the time they were apart. Charlie wandered into the lounge and plunked herself down on the sofa next to her mother. "You okay?" Steph asked, concerned. "Yeah, Mum, bit tired, so I'm going to call it a night," she said, reaching over to give her mum a quick kiss on the cheek. "Night, Mum." "Night, Charlie." Once she was in her room, Charlie took another look at the photograph and shook her head at the enormity of the situation, wondering how something like this could have just happened. And she slipped under the duvet, which still felt warm from the hours she'd spent with Mitchell. Opening the diary, she kept her phone close, as Mitch had promised he'd drop her a text when he reached home. She flicked through another couple of weeks of entries which described her mum's work experience at the hospital. She was tempted to linger whenever she spotted her dad's name, but realising she needed to know how things ended as soon as possible, she skipped to the next weekend when her mum was with James again. Dear Diary, Friday the 19th of August 1988. As I was working the afternoon shift on the radio, I'd taken my weekend bag with me so that James could just pick me up from there. By the end of the show I was so excited to be seeing him, and I positively ran down the corridors and almost floored Mark again, who shouted hi to me as I passed by in a blur. Outside I scanned the parking area and soon saw James standing by his red Mini. I ran over to be enveloped in a large hug. "Aren't you a sight for sore eyes?" "You too," I replied, reaching up so my lips could meet his. "How was your day?" he asked as he grabbed my bag. "Great. The show is such fun, and I'm getting loads of requests, so it makes it all worthwhile when the kids phone in or want me to go and visit them on the ward." "What about you?" I asked. "Felicity is making my last month hell. I had to beg and plead for this weekend off so I could see you." Why did he have to mention her, I thought, but I let it go as he grabbed my hand and placed it on top of his knee. "Anyway, I only have another 12 days to go, so I couldn't care less," he said as we sped off up the road, Madness playing on the stereo as we sang along to House of Fun. When we reached home it was time for dinner, and I enjoyed telling Pam and Peter about my radio show. Then as soon as we could, we went upstairs to James's bedroom, and at last I could relax into his embrace. I reached for him as he pulled me close, and our lips met slowly at first, but then with more urgency as James started to remove my clothes. With every layer that fell, the more turned on my body was under his caress. Then when I was naked, he lifted me up and carried me the short distance to his bed. Once he slipped out of his jeans, t-shirt and boxer shorts, he joined me. I revelled in the feel of his touch as he gently trailed kisses down my throat, and then to my nipples, taking each of them in turn. I felt as if I would come just from the sensations running through my veins. His tongue went lower and his head was between my thighs. I sighed and felt his hot kiss, followed by the coolness as he blew gently in between every lick. It was mind-blowing as my body arched to meet his fingers plunging into my wetness. "Please now," I whimpered softly as his finger withdrew. He moved up to kiss me and plunged into me. Within a single breath I was coming so much that I felt as though I was floating on a cloud, weightless and out of control. All I felt were the convulsions through my body, spreading like ripples on a pool, widening from the core of me to the very tips of my fingers. "I love you," I gasped, as I felt James join me in his bubble of sensation that made up both of our bodies. "I love you too," he replied, both of us dropping back down to earth. Still in his arms, he hugged me tighter, and feeling so content with my world, I fell asleep. Saturday the 20th of August. I woke up before James and revelled in the time I had to gaze at him as he slept. I decided I needed action as I ran my fingers down his chest, encountering his erection which had sprung up from nowhere. Taking it in my hand, I stroked him and manoeuvred my staff so that I was straddling James. Looking down into his face, I saw a smile spreading over his lips, but he remained still and kept his eyes closed. Feeling this empowered only enchants my own feelings as my body responded, I slowly lowered myself onto him and started to move. Leaning forward, I kissed him, raining small butterfly kisses all over his face. He could lie still no longer, and his arms reached up to run through my hair, bringing me closer so that his lips could capture mine. "Keep riding," he murmured in my ear, before it exploded inside of me, and I joined him a few moments later. "I wish you were here to wake me up every morning," James said, as I lay in his arms. "I wish I was with you every day," I replied, snuggling closer to him. "So, what would you like to do today?" "Staying in bed with you would be nice, but I don't mind." "Ever been ice skating?" "No. Have you?" "No." "So we can have a go together then," James said as he bounded out of bed. "First we need a shower." He grabbed my hand and pulled me out of bed. We snuck into the bathroom together, and trying to keep the giggles to a minimum, we shared a long, indulgent shower. After brunch we drove to the ice rink, and once we had our skates on, we both staggered out onto the ice. It was quite tricky at first to keep our balance, and we both howled with laughter as each of us took it in turns to fall over, before we found our flow on the thin blade. Then there was no stopping us as we glided around the rink. Overhead the music played, and in my heart I was at one with James. We headed into town for some late lunch and ended up bumping into his mate Ian from the pool and his girlfriend April. They asked if we were going out that night with the rest of the gang. "I'm not sure," James replied. "Oh, go on," said Ian. "I haven't had the chance to talk to your wonderful girlfriend who we hear so much about at the pool." I blushed when he said this. "Can we go?" I asked. "We'll see you both later." Luckily I'd bought a couple of dresses, one of which was brand new, so when we got ready to go out I spun round so that James could take in the view. "You look gorgeous. I'm going to have to keep my eyes on you this evening," he murmured. Stooping and catching my hand in his, he brought it up to his lips. "You don't need to worry. I'm completely and utterly hooked on you," I whispered. "Together forever, remember? Till the end of time." The club was busy, but James soon found April and Ian, Graham and Lizzie, and unfortunately Felicity and a guy called Jason. As we reached the group I squeezed his hand, suddenly shy and unsure of myself. He squeezed back, and as I looked up he smiled at me. Once the introductions were over, Felicity turned her attention to Jason, who was enjoying it as she kissed and touched him in front of all of us. "Shall we hit the dance floor?" James asked. "Sure," I replied, feeling the beat of the music invading my body like a drug. We found a spot and James held me close as we moved together in time to the rhythms. It was hard to have a conversation over the loudness, but I didn't mind so long as I was with James. Then we headed for the table where the others sat, and I stayed there while James got a round of drinks. Felicity had disappeared, so I turned to include Jason in the conversation, and we were soon chatting away about music. I didn't notice Felicity's return until she was stood in front of me, her eyes blazing. "What do you think you're doing?" she snarled. "Just chatting about music," I answered. My stomach flipped over as I quickly glanced around for James. "You leave Jason alone," she growled. "He's mine." Ian suddenly piped up. "You should leave Stephanie alone. They were only talking." "And you should remember who your boss is before you speak," she retorted. I noticed Graham had started to move away, as had Jason, an embarrassed look on his face. At that moment James returned and the mood turned icy as her gaze swept to him. "I think I'll need you to work tomorrow afternoon," she said, "and in future, could you tell your schoolgirl here to leave my man alone, otherwise there will be trouble." By this point I was seriously shaking, and as James was about to say something, she promptly picked up her glass of wine and emptied it over the front of my dress before stalking away, grabbing Jason by the arm and propelling him to the door. For what seemed like minutes, but was probably just seconds, we remained shell-shocked. "Sorry, everyone," I said at once as they turned to me, April passing me some tissues. "It's okay," I stammered, still in shock. "She's a bitch," Graham said. "You're lucky to be leaving," he asserted, looking at James, who was standing there holding a tray of drinks. "Can we go home?" I pleaded. "Sure," he replied as he took my hand and said goodbye. Just feeling James's arms around me was a comfort on the short walk home. "Why does she hate me so much?" I asked. "Oh, she hates everyone. But when I first started at the pool, she asked me out and I said no. Even though we weren't together then, I had strong feelings for you," James replied, hugging me tighter to him. "She's been awful ever since." Once home and in the safety of James's room, he peeled my dress off and then my underwear. It seemed we were both keen to rid ourselves of the unpleasant scene, as we dived for the comfort of the duvet and held each other tight, each lost in our own thoughts, or our bodies together as one. Her phone beeped and Charlotte grabbed it to find a message from Mitchell. "Thanks for a wonderful weekend. I'm home safe and sound, but missing someone to hold me tonight. Wish you were here, because when I'm with you I have the time of my life, and I've never felt this way before. Sleep well, my baby, and keep in touch, Mitchell." Charlie smiled at the reference to the lyrics from Dirty Dancing. "Mitchell, you're like the wind. You've taken my heart and you don't know what you've done. Missing you too, and can't wait until we're dancing together again. You're Charlie." Charlie knew she was falling hopelessly in love with Mitchell, and there was nothing that could stop her. She put the diary aside and fell asleep, her dreams a muddle of wishes and desires, held together by music and dance. So that's it for today's chapter. Once again, feel free, if you want to read ahead, to go and grab a free copy of this from my website, www.audrinalane.co.uk. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. Bye for now.